competitive. Because Miami was together in the last 4 years, it was either Miami or Boston or Indiana and Chicago, then everybody else was out of the race. But I think the East right now is in the process of change. And I think there's a couple teams in the East that really intrigue me. I'm not saying they're going to be, in the conference finals necessarily, but they're teams who can challenge maybe. You look at the Wizards, adding Paul Pierce to that roster, while it's not really necessarily a great move in terms of, he's a lot older, but it's an experience move. It's a championship, experience move that will help guys like Bradley Beal and John Wall grow. You look at, Indiana would have been in the mix had Paul George not gotten hurt, but clearly they're not in the mix anymore because without Paul George, and certainly losing Lance Stevens hurts them too. But you have those teams, and there's a lot of different teams who are very intriguing to me. Atlanta's intriguing to me. Detroit's intriguing to me a little bit. So there's a lot of things going on there. I think Miami does have, the roster alone gives an opportunity to actually, make a strong run. Toronto had a great run last year. They can be in the mix again. Although I don't know if I'm kind of soft on Toronto this year. I don't know if they do play with it last year. The Knicks would be better than they were last year. Having Phil Jackson run that team and having some of the little moves he made over the summer. I think the Knicks will be in the mix. So
if the Knicks make the playoffs last year, they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
I agree. I actually agree with you. I remember doing the radio show like 2 weeks.
The Pacers were garbage, and they got taken to 7 by the Hawks, and then the Wizards. I mean, come on. You're telling me that they would beat Melo?
I actually agree.
They took my dream match of Heat Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, and I think also too, like the Knicks, you look at how I played out in the 8th seed in the East last year. They would have gotten the favorable matchups going to the playoffs. I mean, I think Indiana then, obviously Indiana beat them 2 years ago in the playoffs, but I think Indiana, last year the way it came in the playoffs was a lot more flawed and had a lot more issues. And the New York Knicks, if they gotten hot, they could have definitely made some noise. And then they drew Washington second round also, and that could be another issue too. So, so I think the Knicks could have been a team that could have challenged maybe a little bit, had they gotten hot. But like I said, the Eastern Conference was such a bad year for a lot of teams and a lot of flaws and stuff. Even the top 2 teams in the, Miami, Indiana had their issues going into the year. So, but I think this year there's a lot more intriguing storylines coming into the year. And I think I just think this is going to be a fun year across the board, not just in the East, but even the Western Conference too.
Looking at the dates, before we go to break, we're going to go into college football because we'll just take the next segment into NFL. College football. You got Mississippi and Mississippi State in the top 5 in college football. Could there really be anything more wronger? I know that's not a word, but could there be anything more wronger than the state of Mississippi getting credit in anything?
I think they're going with that, man. Look, those 2 schools have done a great job. I mean, how they say parodies in the NFL heavily.
It's cheating. There's no way that they got a top 10 recruiting class out of nowhere without paying people to come here. I mean, that's not. I mean, am I wrong on that?
Well, obviously the results on the field. I mean, they've earned it. Ole Miss, we came to the year. I was actually really big on Ole Miss, and this game was a game. Being Alabama this weekend, this is a game I actually viewed as the game that I think will pull over the top because Ole Miss had some hype the last couple of years too. But they lose to Alabama or lose a game they should lose early in the year, and then they fade out pretty fast. But the parodying college football now, the parody in the NFL is very relevant, and that's true. I think parodying college football now is even more relevant this year, and this weekend. I mean, Bob, I think, Bob, in sports, I think this might have been probably the best sports weekend I think I've ever had. In terms of the storylines. We had the baseball playoffs, of course, college football, and all the top teams losing, except mine, of course. Thank you, Florida State. And then, of course, the NFL was fun today, and there's still great storylines there. This is one of the best weekends of sports I think I've ever had. And I've seen a lot, because I've, been alive for 34 years and seen a lot of sports, through my, my lifetime. But, college football this year is so much fun. And this weekend, definitely made for a lot of conversations to go forward into the college football season as we enter the midpoint of the year now. So,
the thing with the whole, 11 of the top 19 losing or whatever it was, it was cool to see, all those upsets. Yeah, I don't think it gets much cooler than Rich Rodriguez getting vindication on Michigan. I mean, does it get any better than...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And funny thing is, too, like, even I was critical of Rich Rod winning at Michigan, but I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't watch enough Michigan games back then to even like, justify my criticism towards Rich Rod. But it was definitely cool to see Rich Rod, and who would have thought that game on Thursday night was a clue of what things to come that weekend? Who would have thought that number 2 Oregon losing was just the start of a string of teams losing, what they did the weekend? UCLA losing, of course, Alabama, A&M. It's crazy how this weekend's gone, and but I would have Rich Rod definitely, and see the Oregon lose again too, early in the year, like do the Oregon thing, like I say, it wasn't surprising at all. It really wasn't.
Are you a buyer into the big, the SEC being, having 2 teams in the, in the college playoff, or do you think it should be, one SEC, Big or Pac-12, Big 12, and then maybe somebody else that's not the Big Ten in the college football playoff?
I do, and I think also this week improved that too, because people say, oh well, look at us, this isn't that bad because the Alabama lost and so did all these top teams. No, they lost to the team they lost to were to teams in their own conference. So it further proves how good the SEC really is. Mississippi State, in the mix now, and Ole Miss in the mix now. A&M, is pretty good, but they lost. Florida's gonna be back very soon. I can't stand Florida. So the SEC, I honestly, if you go down the list of teams in each conference, the best teams in college football, in your opinion, you have to at least consider. I'm not saying you pick 2 teams automatically, but it would be hard to go against it. So I just still say Alabama's up the top 4 in college football still. I just still consider. Now Ole Miss playing well, they'll be in the mix now too. Or even Auburn, Auburn's right there. So, look at it now. The top 4 teams in college football are now 3 of them SEC teams. Auburn, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss. If that's not, a clue as to who's deserving, I don't know what to tell you.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. We are here with DJ Christian, the Honestly Speaking radio show. Go ahead and call in if you have anything after the break at 585-633-7487. Again, that is 585-633-7487 on LateNightSportsRadio.com. This is the Bob Sullivan Show. We're going ahead.
Hey, there goes Joan Jett, Woke up to some wailing, was Van Halen on my radio. Parachute pants, skinny ties, Michael J. Fox, family ties, 1984. Don't want no more 90s shit. Nirvana was cool and maybe Pearl Jam, but that was it. Give me Springsteen, rock and roll, Cheap Trick, not Oingo Boingo. Hey, Joey Ramone, leave Michael Jackson at home. Radio, 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 radio. Radio, 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 radio. One-hit wonders, they're all stars. Billy Joe, the alarm, boombox hanging on my arm. Radio, 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 radio.
Who the hell can wait till morning? Talk now at latenightsportsradio.com.